I just want to say thank you though for giving me this opportunity first. Like, I mean, it's good to meet you, and thank you for seeing my perspective. You know.
Well, thank you, Anthony Zender, for agreeing to talk to me today. It's a pleasure because I knew you were in the Marines and you're also an MMA fighter, and you were that's fighting is your job, right? Your main job.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, that directly goes into what I do for the SSP.
Oh, exactly. Because I've heard my dad was in the Russian army. I was never in the army or military, so I don't have that. I just have a civilian background, but you actually have the background where this all ties into.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely I found amplifies the experience a little bit because just having the military background in this life, it actually does help me understand better, what I'm experiencing in my super soldier life as well, and that gives me because I know civilians, that are waking up to this kind of stuff. It's definitely probably a little harder for them to wrap their heads around, the reality of what they're experiencing. Because some of the stuff I've experienced has been unbelievable. So
Yeah, for me, it wasn't really even a shock because I was always interested in weapons, like in swords, throwing knives, and also firearms like FNFS, those paramilitary rifles.
right, right, yeah,
Some like semi-automatic. So for me, like I've collected them and I've shot some of them in target practice, not like in the field where there's people, just but target practice.
yeah, right. Like I mean, obviously that came from that, and
Yeah, I did.
definitely, yeah. Because we get taken, then we get put back, and and those skills bleed through,
Yeah, they do.
obviously. Yeah,
There's a little bit of an echo. I think that's better now.
yeah. So yeah, it was pretty interesting because last night I did have a very extensive experience with you in my dreams. Yeah, and like we were basically we were and this is what we were on a train, and we were just in a really nice environment, and we were going we ended up we were in a city, and then we were in a hotel, like actually like a luxurious hotel, and we were just talking like we were now. And then all of a sudden we got interrupted by some agents, and they were just kind of off in the because we were walking through a garden, we were and just talking, and we were interrupted by agents, and the energy was just that kind of energy, and at that point I had a choice to attack them or run away, because and recently I've been in my dreams, I've been recognizing I've been making that choice of not attacking anyone and stuff. So I actually started running away, and then they were all over the place, and then I actually got away, and then I woke up, and because I know they don't want you and me to talk, obviously.
Yeah, that happens often. I've noticed that when people first contact me, just before we agree to do an interview, that the agents intervene and try to scare the people into not to do the interview with me. Same happened with Kevin Trammell. He had a lucid waking dream where the agents knocked at his door and told him, "Don't speak with one Ileana because you shouldn't be." So I think same happened with you and me and the train. Because I've been having thoughts of trains as well in the mountains, like being on a train somewhere in the mountains. So
It was like in the Alps, kind of a Swiss Alps kind of.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for me as well, like it wasn't a dream. It was just like a thought pattern that I was somewhere on a train in high mountains and there was kind of like a little bit of snow, but not too much.
That's interesting, and I think that's also kind of the bleed through of the consciousness from the higher dimensions. That's we're picking up on somehow, and
Yeah, I agree with you. It's and as well, you contacted me a few months ago about the Earth Alliance op that happened. So that was very interesting as well.
yeah, that was definitely because I remember that in February. Having that memory of being on a ship with Donald Trump, and I was carrying the weapon that you described in the work that you did, the FN 4000. That was exactly what I was carrying,
Yeah,
and yeah, and I remember I was on board getting, I wasn't with Donald Trump, and that's what you explained as well, because I remember being on a ship with the FN 4000 and not being with Donald Trump, and then being on a kind of like a platform where all the ships land, and then that's where I saw you, and then at that time, that's when Donald Trump was getting into the ship, and he was, saying something and getting into the ship, and that's what I recall from that.
yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
I remember seeing you on the platform as I was going up on the ship. And I waited until Trump boarded, then I boarded to go into the co-pilot cockpit. And I couldn't hear anything that they were doing during their meeting because they had noise cancellation equipment, so you couldn't really hear anything that they were talking about. And there was a plexiglass shield between the pilot and co-pilot area and in the back where they had the meeting.
yeah. No, I actually I have a pretty good. I think I know. I pretty much think I know what they're talking about. Because what I've been studying and this whole awakening process is what they were talking about with obviously what he was referring to when he made his inauguration speech. He said in his inauguration speech, "We're going to unlock the energies and technologies of tomorrow and go and go to space and stuff." And
Exactly.
yeah, so I know that they had to be talking about some disclosure stuff in there, with what he wants to disclose, which what all the cabal, has had from us, and obviously was what she's doing with the deep state takedown is we're going to get all that stuff back, the patents, all the everything. So
But I agree with you. I think Trump was being briefed on the SSP and the Earth Alliance because they're the ones that actually brief presidents, the Earth Alliance. So it's very interesting what they do and how they do it.
yeah, and it's definitely secret, you know. I yeah, it's I'm just with Trump, he's taken down the deep state right now, and I know that there's technologies involved in SSP things going on with the deep state takedown, and that's what's going to be kind of understood later with how this deep state takedown's happening and how things are happening so fast. That's just another layer of what's going on with what I understand.
Yeah, yeah. And February, because when you're just like getting in as president, they don't brief you in January, they brief you in February. So
Right, right.
that's interesting. That's when the op happened, like beginning of February.
Yeah, it was right on time, and there was the the picture of him. He was in his jet, and he was just going, and then they actually the Fox film was filming it. They were filming that, and then they took it back to the editing studio, and then they caught the two escorts. Which that was pretty much the beginning of him being, seeing what was going on.
Yeah, for sure. I saw that video in slow motion and there were like two discs following the plane. So
Yep, yep, yeah,
that's the precursor of him being briefed.
Definitely. I mean that was him. I believe that was the first time he really, he probably always, because I know Trump is a fearless guy. He's doing what JFK, got assassinated for, and he pretty much, obviously, these space programs know they are he's pretty much the chosen one to bring all this stuff in and make it happen.
Exactly, and you can't really assassinate a president these days because the technology that we have, the cameras everywhere on the streets, and the intel that Trump gets is much more advanced than in the 19 whatever when the JFK's assassination happened. So these days it's like it's harder to cover up what the CIA or the FBI, whoever orders the hit, what they do, and it was one of them that did it, or a coordinated strike against JFK.
Right. I believe I know that too. Definitely. It was one of the agencies that did it because they're all corrupt and they just are assassinating people at will, and they have been.
Oh, yeah,
Whatever doesn't fit their agenda, they just assassinate whoever it is.
for
And
sure.
that's just obviously not working anymore. So there's obviously been about a switch of powers, and which is what was, because that's a timeline, actually a huge timeline split too, because if Hillary would have won, we would have had different relations with Russia, I'm sure, as you know.
Yeah,
And it's that was a big point, a pivotal point in the timeline for this world, actually, was the election. And Trump, I know he had a lot of help getting in too, because he was going up against huge, unbeatable odds,
yeah.
against the, yeah.
And I was told that he would actually win. Like I knew ahead of time that he would win. I was given some information that he would be the winner and that Hillary had done some pretty questionable and nasty things and that the Scorpion Queen would fall off the timeline ladder. And she did. I saw her as a blue Scorpion Queen climbing the success ladder, and then midway before the final election results, she fell off the ladder. So she lost. I was just kind of given intel that Trump would be the winner because he was being backed by the Earth Alliance.
Yeah, that's very. I mean, because she's a Scorpion Queen for sure. But and she even wrote a book, recently. It's called "What Happened," and it's like you lost, Hillary. That's what happened, and so it's a good thing because war needs to end, and poverty needs to end, and all these things need to end.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, and it's possible too with the technologies that they've been hiding and from us and been using on their will, the 1%, um, uh, and when the world is at need, just like the movie in Elysium. It's just like Elysium, and
As well, Prometheus, that
yeah.
movie, and Passengers, and all of these movies actually have those holographic medical pods, the healing pods.
Yeah, they were talking about. I saw that Trump was signing, an order and stuff, and he's going to be involved in bringing those in.
That would be wonderful. That's
Yeah.
one of the 5,000 hidden patents.
Yep. And I know I noticed in Atlas Shrugged, that series, that they have a shadowy man that comes, and whoever invents a patent that could change the world, someone from the government comes in and takes them or buys them out or assassinates them or something. And that's what they've been doing with all the patents. And
Yeah,
and
and what they do is they actually, like, because the item itself has been invented, they just hide it in the black vaults in one of the underground bases because the technology exists and is being used. The original, the prototype, they just hide away in one of the underground bases in the black vault, and they use the technology off world somewhere.
yeah, and we really need to get that going here on this earth because I think what I've been actually I'm revealing is I know I've been getting prepared for something I've never seen before, physically in my life, because I've been having dreams recently about ships landing, and they're very advanced, and it's like if when that happens in a physical reality, most people are not even going to know what they're seeing at all, and
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. And what I saw in one of my lucid dreams was a fleet of white, elongated ships just cruising in the skies above all the major cities. That was about half a year ago. So I had similar dream as you did, and I was like, "Whoa! I can't believe I had this dream." And then I went on the internet and I found the exact model of the ship. So that's like corroborating confirmation evidence.
yeah, it's all been confirmation. I mean, but that's what definitely I've seeked in this is confirmation. And actually, one of the main person that confirmed my involvement on this was Peter. You know, when I finally came in contact with Peter, I got a lot of the information that I needed to really make the connections about what I was experiencing to realize that I was involved in the secret space program.
Yeah, and for me as well, it was Peter from the CEO. He calls himself Peter Berger. That's not his last name, but he was quite interested in my. He spent 4 hours asking me about the Mars missions and
It's a long
the
time.
yeah 11 bases that I was on Mars and with the interplanetary corporate conglomerate. He wanted all the maps with the locations. He wanted the reptilian abductions in Rostov as well, those maps when I was a kid. He's like wanted all the locations and he double checked everything and he's like, yeah, you were totally there. Those locations match up. So don't be paying any attention to those people that say you were never in the secret space program because they're
Yeah, their files only go so high, because obviously there's many levels. But I know that the files that Peter has are like the X files. Those are the files, and they're legitimate. And I've gotten a lot of information from that, and that's where I found out I was in Monarch and Kruger, and how many missions I did. I was up to 4,128, and for in both Monarch and Kruger, but I pretty much found out that I had been in both of them and infiltrated in one for Kruger for the other, and obviously figuring all that stuff out is something. But as time's going on, I'm remembering more missions and what I've been involved in, and they're starting to get pretty pretty extraordinary.
oh yeah. I remember being in Monarch Solutions as well, and it's they put you through very extreme training. They had me working on opening Stargateway portals naturally with my mind and walking through the portals. So that's what they had me doing and drowning you like cabins in mountains and drowning, repeated drowning to make sure I didn't feel pain anymore and I could withstand torture. So it's like prep work for the secret space programs.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, definitely, that they have to do those things, and they do those things definitely to get the abilities. That's obviously part of the releasing of the abilities. And I have memories of being drowned too, and suffocated, and in cabins actually, and yeah, those are coming back. Those are coming back too.
Well, it's a standard procedure. That's the standard procedure to indoctrinate you into these Monarch Solutions or Kruger. It's like standard torture method procedure to make sure you don't actually feel pain anymore and you can withstand layers of torture.
Yeah, that that just makes sense that you'd have to do that, because what we're involved in is, dealing with aliens, and obviously all kinds of combat related situations. I have many memories that are coming back now where I'm on other planets, and there are monsters, chasing us, and I'm having to take weapons and just discharge them, and or those, and kill whatever it is that I pretty much see. And there are, all the memories are just coming back. Being on other planets of I'm in, someone next to me is getting eaten by a spider looking thing. And I know that these are probably Mars memories that are coming back, because I have memories of Mars and being on Mars, because it was definitely Mars, like reddish kind of area. But and of course I was looking at what I was seeing, but it was different than what it is here. Like a car looks different there,
Yeah.
and that was just one memory. And I remember another memory. I was on a base, and there was an attack, and I had an FN 4000 actually. Now that you enlightened me to that, that's what I was carrying. And actually there was a creature attacking. There was creatures attacking, but they were like an energy. They were in an energy, and that's what we had to use against them.
Yeah, and the FN 4000 is not even actually out on the market yet. So what you were using is actually more proprietary. It's not on the market.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine it would be. Do you know what kind of like charge it is, or do you know what kind of round it has?
I think it's more similar now to the rail gun because they want faster action, projectile shooting out of it. So it's similar to the rail gun.
Yeah, yeah, that was those. Yeah, that's makes sense though, because some of the things that I remember are just, I have a memory of actually being on a planet evacuating it.
Mm.
And we were in an evacuation, and there was a force there that they had actually a very highly advanced weapon that they were discharging into the atmosphere. And pretty much it came down. And it was a coastal town. And I was in it helping people get out. And pretty much this huge wave of energy comes and just destroys the whole town. And I was there getting people out, and someone was next to me. It was a female, and I believe it was an extraterrestrial. I believe it was another species of being. And I pretty much, this was the first time I experienced this, but the blast was coming in at me, and I was in a building, and the pretty much right when it hit the building, um, everything just started, it froze, and then I saw it, like, and Peter does explain this in Quantum Break. It's the exact same effect in Quantum Break. And I had this experience, and everything pretty much froze. And then I noticed like light things all around me, and the glass started slowing down, and it actually gave me time to jump on the being next to me. And then I woke up. And that was one of my memories. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
oh, sorry about they something they're messing with our audio. I think they're
I
trying to.
bet.
Yeah, so for me, there's like sometimes an echo. So audience, forgive me if there's a bit of an echo, but I'll try to speak slower. But what you were just describing, the in Quantum Break, and what you experienced slowing down time and the glass breaking and light beams everywhere, the reptilians did the same thing to me when I was about 7. I was in an underground base. They took me for the experiments, and what they had a portal system in there, and unfortunately the portal system exploded. Something went wrong, and the glass partition, the shield partition that was there between the portal room and the viewing room, it exploded, and then it kind of went backwards, like time frozen. It went like it undid itself. The exploding glass undid itself, and the explosion undid itself. And I was just standing there watching it in slow-mo when they were fixing the time dilation distortion of the explosion. So I remember that something similar, and there was light refraction from all of it, and it just reversed itself like it never happened.
I feel what you're saying. I feel what you're saying. And I am so glad that I finally am coming in contact with someone who's had a similar experience because it did happen, you know, and it's possible. And
Hmm.
these are some of the abilities that you know are capable, you know, we're capable of, and it is something to experience, you know, and yeah.
It's like it's wild because, and I remember you from the Trump meeting, the meeting when he was boarding. You were wearing this light armor protective suit. It was grayish black, and it was very tight fitting, like to your musculature. And when I looked up your image, because I'd never seen what you looked like, we were just exchanging messages through Facebook text. And I was
Right.
like, what? When I looked you up, I was like, oh my God, your profile down to the beard and the short cropped hair, exactly as your image in the op.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing though. That's amazing. And that picture looked the same too, you know.
Hmm.
And you know, you know, obviously that was me in super soldier mode. So that is that's and I want to talk to you about another memory I had with you in it too. Like
Sure.
with because I remember one time it was probably when we were taken and you know, we were in a suburban and we were talking in the suburban, and then I remember we us being in a like a house and in the mountains, and we were talking there, and I was actually on a like a computer. I remember going over, and there was a computer there, a very highly advanced computer, and it had something about the Palladians on it, and that memory recall of you, and another one, and I know that I think you know what was going on there.
Well, actually, that now that you mention it, I know that I'm an Andromedan Pleiadian hybrid. So that makes sense. I know a lot about the Pleiades, and in one of my soul lives, I come from the Pleiades, so that makes perfect sense. The
Well,
connection
that
is
that
there.
what does make yeah that does make because it says Palladian, and you know how dreams work. I was talking to you, so that is interesting. As far as my origin is concerned, I know I relate myself most with Arcturian,
Hmm.
but I also know I have other origins as well. Like I believe I'm Andromedan and Syrian as well. So have a few origins there.
Yeah, I have a Syrian connection as well, Syrian lifetime as, and I've trained actually with the Syrians with healing. Being, I visited the planet Nibiru, and they have a Syrian habitat there, so that connection too, I can definitely confirm. And they're very good teachers, those Syrians.
Yeah, I think that I was there too because they're are they blue? Are they blue?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I have a memory of being taught, you know, by a blue being, and I was being taught how to levitate things, and you know that I think that was a Syrian, you know.
Yeah, I remember being taught by four females who had like light blue skin and blonde hair.
Yeah, that is and it was definitely a very it was a very it wasn't an Earth-like environment. It was very you know, magical and mystical, you know, definitely somewhere else.
Yeah, they have their teaching rooms that are very, you definitely know you're in a different dimension because you could feel the energy around you and the magic.
Right,
You
right.
could you see the energy around you, and it's different than on the earth plane. So because like I see it as them having teaching labs where you go for night courses.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to go there.
Oh yeah. I,
Yeah,
I I can totally agree with you on some of the Syrians have blue skin and white hair or blonde hair. And they're very tall and they wear like different types of jumpsuits, like silver or blue or purple even, or clothing that's blue. It's indicative to their specific group. They have certain, it's like their coat of arms, the color of their clothing and the emblem that they're wearing. So it tells which group of Syrians they're from.
yeah. Wow, that's very interesting.
Hmm.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I was gonna say, kind of just blew my mind there. With the Syrians though, and oh yeah, I lost my train of thought. um, where was I gonna go? Yeah, uh, I did lose my train of thought though.
That's okay,
But
no worries.
with I had something to say. Uh, yeah. Oh, this with just remembering your origins and that being in another dimension and knowing you're in another dimension. Obviously, the things that are in this dimension, the physics in that dimension is different. So there are things that are possible there, that are not possible here.
Yeah, or it takes a lot of work to actually activate the things in this dimension to make it possible, like a lot of trainings, psychic training, psionics.
Right, right. And with I mean, I know with yogis, some of the yogis, obviously they are in the mountains
Hmm.
training psychically, for years on end, and they can teleport and levitate physically,
Hmm.
and the masters, of the Far East, and there are people that have actually attained that level on this level. And obviously, once you experience the reality that's a reality, like I've devoted my life to learning psychic skills, and I do experience, psychic skills, on this level, and I realize that they're getting more and more as I, do my practices, that obviously I'm remembering and learning as well.
Yeah, same for me. I could like when I meet people, sometimes I could see what health issues those people have in their body. Like, and people get freaked out if I tell them, well, you have this or that. And they're like, no, I think somebody is a bad entity is influencing you and you're picking up on something that I don't have. I'm in perfect health, although they're not in perfect health, or some minor health issue, energy blockage. And some people are like, how did you know that? How did you pick that up? I'm like, it's sort of like being a medical intuitive where you can energetically see blockages in the body. And so some people are more willing to find out how that works and get to know about it, and some are like, no, 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 I don't have that, don't tell me, uh, you're a fake, you're a fraud, whatever. And I'm like, okay, fair enough, I'm backing off. So it's intuitive, like you use your intuition and your psionic abilities, because when your intuition is heightened, you're building on your psionics.
Right, that would be like the key for psychic skills is intuition, and
Hmm.
building that, and that knowing, that just knowing and feeling, and from feeling,
Yes.
and through empathy,
Hmm.
and and obviously that has to do with, expanding your consciousness, and being able to feel everything around you, which is obviously it's you have to be able to handle that energy, because your box that you live in is a little bit bigger. It's like, most people, their box is only attentive to how they feel or how the other person feel, but once you become more empathic, the box gets a little bigger. Now it's like, okay, now how does that, animal out there feel? How does this tree feel? How does, and then you feel it all, and obviously that helps you. The empathy helps you, care, and caring is what keeps us alive and going. And what of my sayings I just came for them is, or I just remembered was, it's for them, like we're here for them. And I that's what I realized with this mission. I'm on a spiritual mission, and obviously that has to do with the MyLab thing. Is that's why how they get you is because you've obviously been here before, and you have the extraterrestrial genetics, and that means that comes with the abilities and skills that are obviously very, very valuable. And you know that that's part of being on in this mission, coming to this earth, and helping, um, through remembering, who we are and who we've been and who we are going to be. So
Exactly. And you have the breakthrough memories of your secret space program um, actions and what you did and what you learned there. And it's a lot of learning and training and then going on missions and doing it, what you're trained to do. Um, and as well as the spiritual component of the skill set that you gain through psionics. They teach you that as well. But your true mission is of the light of purity. It's not to wage war. It's not to be covert in secret. That's not the mission we came here, but we were subverted into the programs, SSP, the Monarch Solutions, Kruger. So you have everything layered in experience.
yeah, that makes sense because we come here as the pure souls that we are, and obviously we do get subverted into these programs and experience the things we experience, and then we have to work through that
Mm.
to get back to who we are again in the spiritual mission. And I've seen. I mean, it's the whole super soldier thing. It's not a pretty thing. People go through shit, and they're not okay. My whole family is suffering. And I've met other super soldiers who are suffering. I mean, pretty much every single one, is suffering. I mean, everybody's pretty much suffering in a way right now. But one girl that I met, she was actually she was the first girl that I came into contact with that was a super soldier. Like I actually met physically, and she had been a Navy diver, and she was obviously picked up for that. And she showed me a picture of when she was abducted, and there was a reptilian claw mark on her back. It was a reptilian claw mark, and then she had a circular stamp with a triangle stamped on her. And that's obviously a very negative abduction. And that's part of this. That's part of this. That's part of the MyLab super soldier experience. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. And they use the triangular symbol quite a bit in some of the SSP factions. And sometimes they use a sword as well and wings, so that's quite common. The fact that the reptilians marked her with the claw and the stamp from My Labs or some other program.
Yeah, that was a wake up call because it's definitely not all love and light, and it's definitely not all about joining up and going to fight the aliens and stuff like that. It's much more complicated than that. And obviously that's there's some disclosure movements out there that obviously they're compartmentalized, and of course that's what you're going to do because you're going to want to control the amount of information because that's what this has been all about. But a lot of people they speculate on whether or not humanity is ready for the truth. And I know they are. I mean, that's what we've been getting ready for. So it is time for a disclosure movement, or the disclosure movements to start, really getting out the full picture. And my labs are definitely a stage in that, because first you get people With the UFOs, you get them on that, which the Pentagon has now released. Their files on the UFOs, and you get interested in that, and then you get people interested in the secret space program, and then from there, then that's where the MyLabs come in, and that I believe that that's how the process is going to be unraveled here in the next years to come, because that's what's happening is disclosure right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's pretty bad echo. I'm gonna move back and see if that helps. But like I said, for sure, I agree with you 100%. Um, Disclosure happens in slow motion. I wish it was happening quicker. And you have those prep programs. You have the My Labs, you have Kruger, you have Monarch Solutions, and I believe that's prep training for the secret space program. They get you as children, and they really train you for it, and then you get into the hardcore secret space program stuff.
Yeah, that's been my experience, and I can honestly say I can tell my timeline, because it started out for me when I was 6, and that pretty much that was when I found out from Peter from the files that I had been taken, and from there to a secret base where they started putting in implants and the black goo and PPAI. And at that time, I was a kid. I didn't know what was going on, but that was going on. And then I would get bloody noses, from the abductions, and then uh, I would be getting groomed, because there was a family that came into my life who obviously all of them were pilots training to be in the military, pretty much. One of them didn't go into the military and fly. He actually flew a commercial, and that guy became my stepfather. But he basically they were grooming me, and I would they would take me up flying with them, and they would give me games like Doom to play when I was a kid. Like when I was 8, I was like, "Cool, Doom," and that was a little unusual, but that was up to about 12 years old, and then at 12, I was always obviously focused to be combat military, and I would be studying books of planes, and always just in that mindset. And I guess when I was 16, that's when I got approached by the Department of Naval Intelligence, with the contract, and they signed it. They had me sign it, and that they wiped my memory. And actually, I found out that I was gone for like 5 days, and then they put me back to when they took me, and that was the beginning of my, like you said, the hardcore stuff.
Oh yeah, 15, 16, it's like sometimes 17, 18, but they can take you as early as 15 into the preps. Like Monarch Solution is heavy duty prep, and then you go straight into the SSB stuff. So that totally makes sense. And I also played Doom when I was young, like 13, 14.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
had PlayStation. So video games are disclosure. So you're kind of
yeah.
like you you do the video games, and that's kind of a semi enrollment to prep you. Now I don't play video games, but I really like them. Mass Effect. There's other games that I've found, but Mass Effect has the most disclosure in it about the SSP.